Hello, in this video we're going to talk about the settings in the general category for APDL. To access the settings menu, we're going to open the menu and go down to the settings item on the left. On the main settings page, we have multiple categories of different settings. Today we're just going to talk about the general settings. On the general page here, starting at the top, we have a time zone section. Two options here to choose how time zones are handled for display and entering times in APDL. Anytime you have a time displayed on your trip view or your calendar view, schedule view, things of that nature, this display times in setting is going to set which time zone is used to display that time. For the enter times selection, anytime you are editing a time in a time editor, you're going to be displayed two different times. The first one is going to be your custom selection, and the bottom one is going to be UTC. The recommended method to enter times is in UTC to avoid all confusion from time zones. I'm going to go ahead and show what options we have here. These options are the same for display times and enter times, but they can be set separately, as you can see. We have UTC, obviously local. It's local for the particular airport that you are landing or departing at. So if you have a flight that spans time zones, the local time displayed will be local for each airport, not for one or the other. Domicile, which would be matched to whatever your domicile is as configured in APDL, and a custom setting which you can set in reference to UTC every half-hour increment. In this case, I'm going to leave this at local, and enter times in looks the same, it just defaults to UTC. I'm going to go back to a flight here and show an example of what this looks like. As you can see at the top of the screen here, this next to the trip indicator says local. That's telling us that we have selected to display times in local time zone. All the times displayed on this page are in local time unless otherwise noted. In the case of the flight duty period, we do have Chicago there. That's to avoid confusion with flight duty period times. If I open up a flight, same thing again. All these times are displayed in local, scheduled and actual, and we can see in parentheses here indication that they are in local. If I was to tap on one of these times, now I'm displayed two different times. They're both the same moment in time, the top being local, which we chose in our previous settings, and UTC at the bottom. We keep UTC at the bottom all the time just so it's consistent throughout the app. Also notice the green highlighted number is on the UTC line. That's because we chose UTC to enter times in. If we had chosen enter times in local, we would still have local and UTC displayed, but the green box would be highlighted over the local time instead of the UTC time. Now, even when I have UTC selected, I can still select local, any number in the time, and I can move it manually. The ability to default to UTC or local just saves you a step. Going back to our settings screen now. Next on the list we have map settings. For our weather map, we have a couple different options we can enable or disable here. Weather, that's going to enable your weather radar overlay. Airport delays, it's going to display or allow you to enable or disable FAA airport delays. Your location in the app, that comes from the GPS in your phone. Whether or not we want to show the map in the trip view at the bottom of the page. We'll go ahead and go back to the map quickly. And as you can see here, there's our radar data that can be hidden. The red and yellow dots are airport delays that we can also hide. In this case, I do not have GPS location displayed, so that's hidden. And at the end of the trip view, the bottom of the screen here is where we're able to hide the map for the last option there. Continuing on in the logging section, APDL is capable of speeding up your entry of subsequent flights by using some automatic logging features. At the top here we have auto calculate night time. It's pretty self-explanatory. APDL uses an algorithm to determine nighttime for your flight between your two airports. You can turn this on or off. This happens automatically when you enter your times, and you can also override it or enter a manual time if desired. Auto forward airports, if you're making manual entries rather than using our schedule importer, or if you for some reason have to do additional flights, your schedule changes and you have to manually enter those, you can have APDL automatically forward the destination airport from a certain flight to the departure airport for the next flight, just to save you one step. Auto forward aircraft, that's as you're entering your flights after they've been pre-entered, or if you're entering them as you go manually, you can have APDL send the aircraft logged in a single flight forwarded to the next flight to save you a step there. Auto forward crew works the same way. As you're entering your flights and you enter your crew members' names, you can have APDL forward those to the next flight as well. Next we have autofill. This is a automatic logging feature that we've built into APDL to speed up your entry process or to greatly reduce the number of things you have to enter at all. We'll get back to the scheduled out in a moment. For now I want to talk about the actuals here. Actual out and in, actual off and on. Those are part of your out, off, on, and in times. We retrieve those from cloud resources and automatically enter those for you. Autofill automatically runs 15 minutes after your scheduled in time. So assuming your flight is relatively on time, we allow you 15 minutes to enter the flight manually yourself to put in the appropriate times. However, if you were to forget, or you get to the end of the day and you realize you haven't opened APDL, you haven't logged anything, you can open APDL and all of your times will be retrieved from cloud resources for you. One of the things you can use for scheduled out and in is you can use autofill as a pseudo schedule importer, if you will. All you need to enter is your flight number, departure and destination, the scheduled departure time, and you can use the autofill now button, which will retrieve the rest of those times for you without having to enter in all the rest of the details. Autofill for actual out, in, off, and on, as well as aircraft, can also be done on command by using the autofill now button on the leg page. The aircraft can be retrieved from our cloud resources as well. That's your tail number. Airports and gates can also be filled using this feature. Some miscellaneous items here. How do you want to handle completed flights? As you complete your flights, you have a couple of options. You can gray out or cross out the entries, as some people do on their printed out trip sheets. Just draw a line through it, or we can gray it out on the screen. For bypass cancel prompts, if you were to make an edit on a page and then cancel out of it, we prompt you with a, are you sure that you want to cancel because you made changes? If that's annoying, you want to turn that off, you can select bypass cancel prompts just like this, and then it'll just cancel and will not give you the warning. It is recommended to leave that turned off just in case, so you don't mess up anything accidentally. Enable full screen mode. This is enabled by default. This hides the toolbar at the top to give you a little bit more screen space to display your data. You can turn that on or off as you wish. If full screen mode is enabled and your toolbar is hidden, just swipe down to redisplay the toolbar so you can navigate back to the menu or wherever you need to go. For show and resume, we can resume APDL from a suspended state to any one of these screens here. Whichever screen you like to use the most often. If you leave APDL suspended in the background, whenever you open it back up, it'll take you straight to that page. I like to use the current duty page. It takes me straight to the first leg upcoming on my trip, and I can go directly to enter in the data for that. Status board is also very useful, just personal preference. This setting will also start APDL from a fresh app open if you have it removed from your suspended apps on these pages as well, with the exception of current duty. APDL does need to calculate what your current duty is after it opens, so it cannot open directly to that page from a cold app start. For help, we naturally have some help messages, help hints. You can turn those on or off, and if you've canceled out of them and you'd like to see them again, you can reset them so they'll pop up again. Lastly, privacy. You can send your some app data to NC Software so we can improve the quality of the app. That's enabled by default. We recommend that you leave that on, but of course you can turn that off if you like. That's the general settings for APDL, and we'll cover the rest of the settings here in another video.